Hi, it's BEngland with FDAimports.com. It's March the 6th, 2026. It's Friday. And we have some very exciting, interesting updates and news for you on the IEEPA cases, and I want to get them to you right away. Changes some strategy significantly. I've been pushing filing the CIT as quickly as possible in order to try to get into a roll-up in the first consolidation. Um, Hold off on that. I recommend that you get some advice in terms of what you ought to actually do, what you ought to do. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'd be happy to talk to you. I do think that you and everybody else who is an importer who has paid IEPA taxes, IEPA tariffs, that you need to certainly know what those entries are, what your liquidation status is, because 180 days from the date of liquidation, you've got a protest deadline, and that is not going to change, no matter what. That won't change. We got some good news, things that have changed. Yesterday, there was a ruling in the CIT in New York. Judge Eaton ordered customs to immediately refund by liquidating entries without regard to IEPA. Customs pushed back on that. Basically, they cannot do an immediate refund for lots of different reasons, not to mention there are 330 importers at least that have paid IEPA tariffs over millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of entries. So there is no immediate refunds coming. Now, there's also a legal question as to whether or not the judge, which in this case Eaton has told customs to do this with respect to all importers, even though not all importers are in front of the judge. For instance, if you haven't filed in the CIT, you are not in front of the judge. You're not in front of the CIT. And so how can the judge tell customs to do anything with your entries when customs doesn't know what's going on with your entries? And neither does the judge. Um, well, that's quite a nationwide injunction, a universal or nationwide injunction. And there's a question whether or not Judge Eaton has the authority to do that. That question has actually been somewhat evaluated by the Court of Appeals in the Federal Circuit on the Voss case, which is a related case. And there was intimation from the CAFC that Judge Eaton cannot do that. So will the government appeal that ruling? The immediacy, I think they have to appeal. They had to appeal. They had to challenge that because they couldn't possibly do it. But just the ruling at all itself, right? The fact that the judge told them to refund all the tariffs, all the IEPA tariffs. Now, all the tariffs. What does that mean, right? Are we talking about Brazil tariffs? Are we talking about fentanyl? Are we talking about Russian oil? Are we talking about reciprocals? What are we talking about? Because not all those things were necessarily involved in the cases that have made its way to the Supreme Court and back. So there's a lot of questions still as to what the rulings mean. The government has 60 days from the date of yesterday's ruling to appeal it. Today, the customs came in with a proposal, and that would be a way for them to use ACE, the Automated Commercial Environment, to set up a system for importers to claim, essentially, that the entries that they believe were subjected to the IEPA tariffs and are therefore subject to refund. There would have to be some submission in terms of the importer's entries, what the entries are. However, it looks like Customs is saying without the need for filing a post-summary correction or a protest. Don't let the government fool you here. Do not be deceived. You have a deadline, and that is 180 days after liquidation, and Customs is advanced liquidating cases. They've been doing it. So yours might already be liquidated, and you could already have the 100 days ticking off. You start getting towards the end of that 180 days, and you have to think about alternative solutions. Because Customs has said it's going to take them at least 45 days to even build the system, much less give the money back. Well, of course, I think we're looking at appeal. I think we're going to see an appeal. Now, what will happen? I can't tell you what will happen. I do think that the courts are inclined to get this case done, and they don't want 330,000 plaintiffs in front of them. They want this to get rolled up. They want this to be done universally, on a national basis. And consequently, I think the Court of Appeals and the Federal Circuit probably is going to let Eaton get away with it. Now, whether that goes to the Supreme Court, I think cert gets denied. So that's how we think it goes. And that's for me, not just me, it's me talking to people who are smarter than I am on the issue. So what now? Well, strategy. That's what now. I think that it's important to stop, take a breather. Definitely make sure you know what's going on with your entries, and don't trust anybody else to tell you. Right? You need to get into the system. If you don't have an ACH account, if you don't yourself can't go in and check, you need to get access. You got to be able to go in there and see for yourself what the status is of your entries. You don't want anybody making a mistake for you, because nobody else is going to take the heat if you miss a deadline. Um, The broker is going to be able to help you, and you should certainly rely on your broker, but you are responsible for making sure you don't miss the protest time frame. That's 180 days after liquidation of your entries. And that's entry by entry by entry by entry. It's all of the entries. You have to keep track of all of them. So definitely do that. Definitely stay in tune, stay in touch, stay tuned in, stay connected. It's Friday. Hopefully, this is the beginning of celebration and a lot of money coming back into the marketplace in the next months, for sure. And not right away. And the other thing would be, contact me if you have any questions. If you need some advice, if you need some counseling, you need somebody to look at it. I'm recommending people don't just sit back and go with everybody else with what they're doing. Get some help on your entries. Make sure you know what you're going to do. We have some clients that are going to file in the CIT anyway. They're going to sue because they want to make certain that they protect their interests. Other clients are holding back. Some clients have already sued. Of course, their cases would arguably be preserved already. There's an administrative process here. How that's going to play out, nobody really knows because nobody's ever done it the way the Customs is proposing to do it this time, and it's going to take some time. So you don't want to get mixed up in it all. You don't want to get lost in all this. You don't have to get lost in all this. What you really ought to be doing is finding somebody to be on your side to help you walk through the process. So Benjamin L. England, FDAimports.com. You can reach me at blengland at FDAimports.com or contact at FDAimports.com. Reach out to me, DM me, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things that people do in order to say, hey, I'm here, and I'll continue to reach back out to you. Hope you have a great weekend.